Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring something, well, pretty fascinating. The idea of getting maximum internal power with minimum effort. Sounds like a paradox, right?
It really does. But it's rooted in some very old, very practical wisdom. The texts call it action originating in inaction.
Action from inaction, okay.
Yeah, it's less about philosophy, surprisingly, and more about a really smart way of working with your body and mind. If you learn how to use just the right amount of force, you tap into this deep well of energy, something you just don't get from, say, lifting weights.
So our mission today, a deep dive into Qigong, also known as Qigong. It's all about this path of energy. We've got insights from two traditions. One is very classical, focusing on stillness, that's Zhan Zhuang, or standing like a tree. And the other is quite different, more about flow and spontaneity. That's Qi from the Tibetan shamanic path.
Right, two sides of the same coin, in a way. Stillness and movement.
Exactly. And we want to give you a kind of blueprint, for how you might bring this energy work into your own life. Because let's face it, modern life is stressful.
It is. And Qigong, it's not just one thing. You have to see the bigger picture. It blends medicine, philosophy, martial arts. It's ancient stuff. Goes way back, they say, to the Yellow Emperor, maybe 2600 BC.
Wow.
At its heart, the name says it all. Qigong. Energy exercise.
Okay, let's nail down that core concept then. Qi, or Qi, people talk about it a lot, but what is it really? What are we actually working with here?
Fundamentally, Qi is vital essence, life force,
Yeah.
the basic energy that keeps everything going. And it's not just in us. It's like our little piece of the universe's bigger energy field.
Okay.
Inside the body, it has pathways, channels called meridians. Think of them less like pipes, maybe more like a subtle energy network alongside your nerves.
Right, like an electrical grid for the body's energy.
Sort of, yeah. Good analogy.
Oh.
So if we have access to all this energy, why do we feel drained? Why aren't we all just buzzing with vitality all the time? What goes wrong? Blockages. Simple as that, really. Obstructions in that flow.
And what causes them?
Well, it can be physical things. An injury, sure. Or just, sitting hunched over a desk all day, that kind of chronic, poor posture. But often, the deeper blockages are mental, nervous tension, stress, those unconscious ways we hold ourselves.
Ah, the mind-body connection again.
Exactly. When that Qi network gets clogged up, things start to go wrong. Pain, fatigue, eventually illness.
Which brings us straight to this principle you mentioned, Yi Dao Qi Dao, where awareness goes, energy flows.
Precisely. Your attention is like the steering wheel for your Qi.
So we direct the energy with our focus.
Especially when you're starting out, yes. Conscious attention gets the energy moving, but what's really interesting, or maybe frustrating, is how we often fight against this natural flow without even realizing it.
How so?
We're born breathing from the belly, right? Deep down in the lower abdomen, the dantian, that's the body's energy center. But over time, life happens, stress happens, and our breathing gets shallow. It moves up.
Into the chest.
Yeah, chest, neck, tension builds up there. And that can directly lead to things like headaches, anxiety, neck pain.
So we literally stress ourselves out with our own breath. We learn bad habits that block our energy.
In a way, yes. We create tension through these dysfunctional patterns. It's quite sobering when you think about it.
It really is.
And so the whole point of Qigong really is to undo that, to release the tension, find that natural alignment again.
And we have these two main approaches we're looking at today, the stillness and the flow.
Exactly. Two paths to the same goal.
Let's start with stillness. Zhan Zhuang, standing like a tree. I read that story about Master Lam Kam Tuen. He thought his teacher was ripping him off at first, just telling him to stand still.
Yes, it's a common reaction, because it looks like you're doing nothing. But standing perfectly still, truly still, it engages your core, your whole internal system, in a way that's actually much more demanding than a lot of vigorous exercise.
How do you start? What's the first step?
It begins with the Wu Qi position. Primal energy stance. Basically, you just stand. Feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, very aligned. You feel that connection, like you're suspended between heaven and earth. And then you just notice.
Notice what?
Tension. Where are you holding? Where are you tight? And you consciously try to let it go, bit by bit.
What sounds, well, simple, but maybe incredibly difficult. How long before you feel anything besides your legs burning?
Patience is key. Absolutely vital. They often say, give it 100 days of consistent practice. Then you can expect real results.
100 days. Okay.
But things start happening internally much sooner. Professor Yu Young Nian actually mapped out the typical sensations for beginners. It's like a checklist to show it's working.
Oh, that's useful. What kind of sensations are we talking about? Because just standing still.
Right, it's not what you'd expect. First, often numbness or aching. That's the initial sign that stuck energy is starting to shift.
Okay, so discomfort first.
Often, yeah. Then comes warmth. Sometimes a deep, involuntary shaking or trembling. That's deep tension releasing from the muscles and nerves.
Shaking just from standing.
Yes, it can be quite pronounced sometimes. And then the really strange ones. Temporary asymmetry.
What do you mean?
Like one arm might feel suddenly longer than the other, or hotter, or heavier.
Seriously?
Absolutely. It sounds bizarre, but it's a sign that chi flow is balancing out. Different parts respond at different speeds as blockages clear. These feelings are the internal action happening within the stillness.
That makes it much more tangible. Okay, so standing still is actually hard work internally. We should touch on the health benefits, but also the cautions, right? Especially for blood pressure.
Yes, definitely. Zhan Zhuang can be incredibly therapeutic. Great for circulation, which helps with things like arthritis, even hypertension over time. However, and this is important, the more advanced standing postures, position 6 to 9 in most systems, put a real demand on your circulatory system. They can significantly raise blood pressure during the practice. So the warning is clear. If you're going to try those, you absolutely need to talk to your doctor first.
Got it. But the earlier stages are safe.
Oh, yes. Positions 1 to 5 plus the warm-ups are generally very safe and actually really beneficial for cardiovascular health. They build strength gently.
Good to know. Okay, so that's the power found in stillness. Now let's switch gears completely. Let's talk about flow. Qigong, the Tibetan shamanic approach. This sounds very different. A harmonious culture of movement.
It is different, yeah. Qigong is less about rigid postures and more about finding naturalness, spontaneity, getting into the flow or the zone. They even talk about this state, helping you realize that life itself is like a dream. It connects directly to self-realization. Pretty deep stuff.
Wow. Okay. But how do you get into that flow state? There must be some technique involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It requires, paradoxically, really good mechanics. Effortless movement needs perfect alignment.
How do they teach that?
It starts with finding your natural stance. And the way they suggest finding it is kind of fun.
Yeah.
You literally jump up lightly and land softly.
Jump.
Yeah. Let your knees bend deeply when you land. Feel your thigh muscles, the quads absorb the impact. That naturally aligns your posture. From there, it's about maintaining what they call streamlining, keeping the body symmetrical, centered. If you're crooked or off balance, the chi gets blocked. That's where pain comes from, headaches, back pain, sciatica.
Makes sense. Alignment is key. And you mentioned arm alignment as a good example.
Yes, perfect little illustration. Think about how you normally stand or sit. Are your palms facing mostly backward? That's called pronation.
Probably, yeah.
Most people do it habitually. But it forces your shoulder muscles to tense up, rounding your shoulders forward.
Right.
Now, consciously turn your palms to face forward. Supination. Feel what happens in your shoulders.
Oh, yeah. They just dropped. Relaxed.
Exactly. Proper alignment isn't about doing something, forcing a position. It's about non-doing. Releasing unnecessary tension, letting the body find its natural ease.
Non-doing. Okay. Now, this next point, this really caught my eye because it goes against everything you hear in fitness, in yoga, everywhere. Qigong advises against stretching.
Uh-huh. This is the big one. A really crucial distinction.
Why? Isn't stretching how you get flexible?
Well, the Qigong perspective is that forceful stretching actually triggers something called the stretch reflex. If you pull a muscle too hard or too fast, your nervous system thinks it's being injured. So it sends a signal for the muscle to contract instantly to protect itself, like a rubber band snapping back.
So you're fighting against yourself.
Precisely. You might feel a temporary stretch, but you're actually creating more tension and getting no lasting flexibility.
So if we don't stretch, how do we increase flexibility or range of motion?
You aim for lengthening, not stretching. It's different.
Length.
Yeah. Instead of pulling, you might briefly contract the muscle you want to lengthen, then consciously, fully release all the tension. Just let it go. When you release the effort, the muscle naturally settles back to its optimal resting length. It's like you're coaxing it to let go of its habitual tightness rather than forcing it open. Minimum effort, maximum result.
Wow. That's a complete shift in perspective on how to work with the body.
It is very fundamental.
How does this idea of minimum effort apply outside of formal practice and just everyday life?
You try to live by the way of bamboo. Be strong but flexible, supple, resilient, not rigid and tense like steel, which can shatter.
So check yourself during the day.
Exactly. Driving. Are you white-knuckling the steering wheel? typing? Are you pounding the keys, holding your phone? Is it a death grip?
Guilty as charged, probably.
We all do it. The practice is to notice and then use the minimum muscle necessary. Let your structure, your alignment, and your chi do more of the work. Every little task becomes a chance to practice.
Okay, this is bridging nicely into the deeper psychological side. Qi Dao talks about holding patterns. What are those?
This is where it gets really interesting. Holding patterns are these chronic, habitual tensions we carry. But they're not just random physical quirks. They actually shape our energy field. And they directly reflect unconscious emotional states or beliefs, like frozen psychology in the body.
Frozen psychology, wow. So the tension is the emotion, in a way.
It's the physical manifestation of it, yeah. It's like a movement that got stuck halfway, an unresolved impulse or feeling held physically. And if you can release the physical tension, you often release the psychological pattern holding it there.
Okay, let's look at the examples given. First one, holding forth. What's that about?
Holding forth is that posture of, well, aggression or maybe intense assertiveness. Pushing forward into the world. Physically, the head juts forward. And to keep it there, you have to constantly tense the muscles in the back of your neck and often your calves to counterbalance.
Right, I can picture that.
That tension reinforces the feeling of being ready for a fight. But it also locks you into that confrontational state and causes physical pain over time.
Fascinating how posture reinforces mindset. What about the opposite? Holding back.
Holding back often relates to judgment, criticism, maybe disgust, or just a general feeling of resistance. Physically, the head pulls back, the chin might tuck slightly, shoulders often round forward, and the weight shifts onto the heels.
Like you're literally pulling away from something.
Exactly. It makes it physically harder to step forward. It's a perfect embodiment of feeling stuck or resistant.
And the third one, holding down. This one sounds linked to low mood.
Yes, holding down is the classic posture of depression or low self-esteem. Slumped shoulders, rounded upper back, collapsed chest, and critically, a chronically tight, contracted abdomen.
Why is the abdomen contraction so key?
Because it restricts your diaphragm.
Yeah.
Makes deep, natural belly breathing, the kind that generates qi from the tian, almost impossible. So the posture itself limits your energy intake, reinforcing the low energy state of depression. It's a vicious cycle.
This is incredible. It really shows how interconnected it all is. Posture, breath, energy, emotion, mindset.
Absolutely.
So this deep dive really highlights two powerful paths within Qigong. You have the intense stillness and internal focus of Zhan Zhuang, building stability from the inside out.
And then the dynamic flow and psychological release of qi.
All right, finding freedom through movement and awareness.
But both ultimately seem to teach the same core lesson. Managing your energy, your qi, isn't about brute force.
Yeah.
It's about managing your attention, yi dao, qi dao, and letting go of tension that doesn't serve you.
Precisely. And that idea that physical tension is really just frozen movement, a physical echo of some unconscious thought or feeling. That's the real power here.
It leads to a pretty profound question for everyone listening, doesn't it?
It does. If that tightness in your shoulders or your neck or your gut, that's just frozen energy tied to some old emotion or limiting belief. What is that emotion or belief? And what might happen right now if you just allowed it to soften, allowed the energy to relax and flow again? That's definitely something to think about. What would happen if you just let it go?
That's the starting point. Your own internal landscape holds the key. Something to ponder until next time.